All right, since we've made the decision to start early, we're going to go ahead and get started. I know we've got people that are having to drift out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there are a lot of us. This was why we came. A couple years ago through Georgia Baptist and Mission Georgia, Jill and I were able to go to the CAFO conference. And while at said conference, we heard a speaker, and I put it back in my memory banks. It's like if there's ever an opportunity to have Peter come and speak and share about foster care and adoption, I would love to do it. And so this weekend afforded us that opportunity. So I ain't going to steal any of this man's thunder. He has an amazing story. What he doesn't share today, did everybody get their copy of his book? You will be broken and inspired by reading it. So without any further, Justin Richards, Peter Mutabazi, come and share with us this afternoon. So he spoke to 2,000 attorneys yesterday or something like that, and he's got Carroll County today. So you get as close as you want, my brother.
Well, hello. Yes, my name is Peter Mutabazi. You know, as you can tell, I have a North Carolina accent. So if you live in North Carolina, that's how we all speak. But I am from Uganda, and my dad is from Rwanda, and my mom is from Uganda. So born and raised in Uganda. And I speak 7 languages, so English is my 4th language. So sometimes I cannot speak it well, or sometimes I just can't spell words or can't say things right. So please bear with me. I'm truly fortunate to be here, and I feel comfortable because I'm with my people. You know, I'm with people that want to know about foster, or advocate for kids. And those are the 3 things I do. I'm a foster dad, adoptive dad, and also advocate for children in foster care. But not only am I a dad and an advocate, but I was also like one of those kids, you know, a kid who grew up and had no hope, but how the kindness of one stranger really changed my life, you know. Really what you're all doing, that kind person, that person who stuck and said, we want to do something for our kids. And that's what I'm about to share with you. I'm going to share about my story, but as you listen to me, I also want to think about the kids in foster care. You know, the majority have walked the journey I've walked. The majority have seen the difficulties that I face. But also, the joy that how someone changed my life is how we can change lives for our kids and be there for them. So as you listen, please go visit our kids in our county. Go visit wherever you come from. If you have them at home, think about your kids as you listen to my story. But also, I'll share a little bit of how I looked at the world, how I view the world, and how someone helped me change it in a different way. That maybe you can learn something that they did that you can do as well to your kids, to those you share with, and families that you know. As I said, I'm from Uganda. So I came to the United States as a student, you know, and of course coming from Uganda to the United States is a drastic change. It's like day and night. I cannot explain, you know, for any of you who ever been to any third world country or to Africa, you know, from there to here is, the difference is, I cannot describe it, you know. So for me, I came from Uganda to Los Angeles. So you can think the difference. You know, and here's what was the difference first. They picked me up from the airport, and this person was driving about 90 to 100 miles an hour. So I thought I was going to die. My prayer was, Jesus, please, today is my last day. Because in Uganda, there are potholes every 10 seconds. So there's no way you can go 20 miles an hour, because you have to stop and then go up, and that's how you go. So this person going 90 miles an hour said, the potholes is kind of the pothole, but it never came. I never saw one, and that's the first thing that I survived. You know, I'd never seen that many people, that many cars. The other part, I had never seen that much food, you know, so they took me, I arrived in the morning, they took me for lunch. So I went to eat, and I was amazed by how much food I could eat. But also, was also difficult for me. That food almost changed my life forever. Because they served food, I ate everything there was. There were 7 other people, they did not eat the food. They ate a little and they threw away the food after. So think about, you just came from Africa and you arrived and there's so much food you never seen before, and the majority of what you saw on people's plate was thrown away. Think about, where am I? And what just happened? So here's what happened to me. To me, I began to ask or question God. there's no way you love us the same way. Like, there's no way that you can have other people eat so much food and throw it away, and others die for the lack of beans. Here's why. I did not have a name until when I was 2 years old. Why? Because for every 100 children who were born in my village, 60 would die before the age of 2. Why did they die? 2 things: dirty water and malaria. If you have not eaten for days or your body is malnourished and you get malaria, you have about 24 hours to survive. So most would die for that. So my mom didn't name me until when I was 2 because she wanted to make sure that I would survive. Because most kids did not make it. The parents could not afford beans and potatoes. And that's why they lost their lives. And that includes some of my siblings or some of my relatives that have lost lives because they could not afford beans and potatoes for them to have tummy full stomach to be able to survive. So you're in a country where food is being thrown away. To me, that just could not sit well with me. That God could love us the same way. Like, there is no way. No way. Or if there is, it's different love. That he favors some to have so much to throw away and others to have so little. But it cannot be the same love. So for me, when I went back that night, I just kind of, like, I was mad at who God is. You know? And listen, I had come to go to theology school. That's what I'd come to do. So now I'm really battling of, oh, this love, how does he love us the same way? And so I went to my dormitory and I told one of the colleagues, I said, you know what, I think I don't want anything to do with my faith anymore. And he asked me why. And I told him why. And he understood. But before he said, go read Psalm 139. You know, I don't know why. He just said, go read it. And I went and read Psalm 139. And I had to understand on how David truly described of how he knows God, you know. We know he had everything he could have, anything. I read that he had 300 wives, right? 300 wives. Think about 300 wives. Can you imagine how many kids I could place in each mom's home? I always think about it in four-scale sense. If you had 300 wives, like, you know, you have 400 in your county, that would be like 300 already in one family, right? But we know he didn't say that in Psalm 139. He didn't say, God, thank you for giving me as many wives as I can. Thank you for making me wealthy. Thank you for... He didn't say anything about what he had. Here's what he said. He said, I cannot believe you know a word on my tongue before I say it. I cannot believe that you know when I stretch, when I sit, when I move, like, you know the intricate of what any movement about me. And that really helps me, like, wait, every kid in Uganda today went to fetch water, though they had to walk 4 miles away, but they walked, they talked, just as David describes it. And he says, I mean, the knowledge about how you know about me is too much, too low that I cannot understand that. And then he says, but where can I go from you? If I go to hell, you're there. If I go to the depth of the sea, you are there. There's nowhere I can go. And that really helped me to understand that, wait a minute, the way he views of how God made him is how every kid in Africa is, and every kid in the United States. And I love what he says in verse 14, he says, for you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And that I know that well. And that really helped me to know that, wait, God knows me of how he created me. He knows that before a word is on my tongue, he knows that well. And that's why he says, that's why I love my God. And that really helped me to know it's not based on the food that he loves me. It's based on how he created you and I. The kid in the foster today, the kid in your home, the kid in Uganda, the kid on the streets of Kampala. He all made them the same way. And that helped me to say, okay, the love is not based on the stuff you give me. It's how you made me and any American here. But then I was convicted too. Now I'm in the United States. You know, there's millions of people. I'm the first one in my entire village to come to the United States. So now I'm like, okay, I'm here. Why did you bring me here? So now Luke 12:48 just really convicted me. To whom much is given, much is required. He's given me that opportunity to come here. What do I do with that? What do I do with that? And that's when I came to know about Foursquare. And as soon as I had by Foursquare, I was like, those are my people. They speak my language. They understand where I come from. And those are people I want to get to know. But also I was convicted. Once I got to be here for about a week or a month in the United States, I began to visit people's homes. And these people were wealthy. And these people had 5,000 square footage homes, 10,000. But there would be only 2 people in it. And I'm like, what do you use the other bedrooms for? What are they for? Here's why I question that. In Uganda, the average house is as big as your car garage. Not the 2-car garage, the 1-car garage. So think about 90% of people in my village live in a house as big as your 1-car garage. Do you know how many people are in there? 6 to 14. And it's their home. And they love it. They are simple, but that's their home. And I said, how can you have that much room, but you have no clue of the kid next door that has nowhere to go? Like, how do we call that? God, you bless me so much, and you've provided for me so much, but it only benefits me, only me. The kids in the neighborhood have nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep. I don't need to know about it. That's how I really, in some way, internalize. So I made a deal with God. I said, God, if you ever allow me to have a home and there's an extra bed, I'll make sure I have a kid or someone that can use it. So one day I walked into Foursquare and I was like, hey, I would like to be I said, I would like to mentor teenagers. Is there a way you could allow me? Here's why I asked to mentor teenagers. So I have traveled in more than 100 countries. I had never seen a black person who was adopting in Uganda or anywhere in Ethiopia or anywhere. So I believe the lie, like you have to be white, you have to be married, and you have to be an American or European to go adopt. And I asked that. I was in Uganda and in Ethiopia. I said, what if I wanted to adopt, would you allow me to? They said, no. You have to be an American or European or female, but male, no. Due to child trafficking, they don't allow men to adopt. So I understood it's the same if you go to Foursquare. So that's why for me, I went and said, can I be a mentor? And the social worker who received me said, hey, have you ever thought of being a foster dad? I said, yes, I do, but I am not qualified to be. She said, why? I said, I'm single. She said, who told you? 30% of our moms are single moms. You can. And I said, are you sure? So I made her give me a paper to sign that I can be a foster parent that day. So it was on a Monday, and on Thursday, I began really my class to be what we call MAP, to be a foster parent. Because I wanted to live Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much is required. That he'd given me so much, and you're going to see, I am the wealthiest human being on the planet. According to where I come from and how far I've come, I am the most wealthiest human being. And I wanted to make sure that one day when I meet my Jesus, hey, I brought you to the United States. What did you do? That I want to make sure I can say, whatever you gave me, I used it for good. But also, I struggle living in the United States. In Africa, we are very, very communal. When someone dies, the neighbor takes the kids to make sure they are okay. When someone dies in our community, men gather together, dig the grave, and build the casket for whoever you lost. And the moms cook the food. We live and depend with each other. And so for me, living here, every church I went to, it was all about convenience. You know, you go to the business, here's how you can make money and retire. You know, here's how you can live well. Here's how you can get things the way you want without having to worry or suffer in some way. And I kind of left like, but what is sacrifice? Like, what do we as Americans understand as sacrifice? Why does it have to be always convenient? What works good for me? Rather, how did our Christ live? How did he live his life every day? He had 12 men who were as knuckleheads as I'm sure as my children are. That was his life. The dirty, the thieves, the prostitutes, those are the people he met on the streets all the time. But us here, our pews teach us how pure and clean can you be? And so for me, I decided to be a foster dad. And it was the most greatest thing I did because I wanted to look for it. So I've had 36 children, and I've adopted 3, and right now I have 7 in my home. As a single dad, I wish I had pictures so I can show you, but I have 7 white kids who don't look like him in any shape form. Well, 2 are from Africa because they came to the United States as refugees 8 months ago, but they ended up in foster care. And they are with me now until they go back to their mom soon. And those are my kids. And I love them. I have 2 girls, well, 3 girls right now, including the toddler. And they have taught me so much about me. My 8-year-old girl, she's the boss of the house. The day she walked in, not yesterday, the day she walked in that door, she's been the boss. She paints my fingers. She walks on my hair. I have no hair, but in her head, Dad has long curly hair that she walks on. I have an 8-month baby. I had no idea that if you're in foster care, when you have 2 siblings and another one comes in, they call you, hey, there's another sibling. I didn't know respite was not respite, it was forever. I got a kid from the hospital because he was left there. How did he get to the hospital? He came into foster care at 1.5. He was adopted by the family that took him in at 4. That family had dropped him at the hospital. They never gave him a reason why they did not want him and why they didn't want him anymore or never say goodbye. So that's the one who came to me as a respite. And as soon as he walked in my home, I said, my name is Peter Mutabazi, but you can call me Mr. Peter. And he looks at me, he said, but can I call you my dad? And I said, no, you can't. You're respite, you're living on Monday. No, you can't now. He said, Dad, I'm 11. They said, since I'm 11, I can choose who my father should be. So I choose you. I said, dude, you're living on Monday. So on Monday, they came to pick him up. And I got to know the story. And I'm like, dang, he knew I'll be his dad. And he's my first adopted son. I just adopted 2 4 weeks ago. They came to me only for summertime. Please summertime, as mom and dad figures out how to have them back. Sure. 3 years later, they're still there. And I just adopted them. And a year ago, yes, I got a phone call. Hey, there's a sibling. From where? No, she was born. No one told me. How come they didn't give me a warning that someone was pregnant? And I was sharing with someone. I got a phone call yesterday from their mom. She's pregnant. That's the world we live in. Those are the challenges and dynamics sometimes we cannot explain to the outside. So 4 have been taken away, and there's 1 on the way. And she called me. Why did she call me? Why did she call me? Because I'm the closest friend, closest person that believes in her, closest person that has her kids as well. It's easy to judge. It's easy to look at them. How dare them? But when you have the safety net we talk about, all of us, I'm super educated. That's my safety net. I know where to find resources. I know where to go. I have friends who can help me. Those are my safety nets that I have. For her, there's none. There's 0. From the fall to the ground. There's no any other way. And how can I be that resource for her? So you might be listening to me and say, how can you be single and have 36 kids and you adopted 3 and you like to adopt 20 more? Like how? How do you do that? And this is where I'm going to go with you to my story. Well, I come from Uganda, and I was born, as I said, in a place where no one ever told me to dream. No one ever told me that there's a future for me. No one ever told me that, hey, tomorrow or next week you will be able to survive. Here's why. If your mother cannot feed you for the day, how does she tell you there's a future for you? I grew up in a home where I had one meal every other day. We could not have beans and potatoes because my family could not afford both. So you have beans today and tomorrow you have potatoes. Spread the food to go along the way. There are only 2 days in 365 days that I had different meal. Christmas, chicken. Easter, beef. So I grew up knowing Christmas was about chicken. And as a kid, men eat first, women and children last. So even that chicken didn't get to me. Beef, because I grew up from a Roman Catholic family. So end of Lent, you have beef. So those are the only 2 days in the 365 days I had a different meal. How do you tell that kid there's a future for you? Grew up in a home where I had to go fetch water 4 miles away, one way, 4 miles and back twice in a day. When do you go to school? When do you become a child? When do you play? I never saw a toy or anything that resembled a toy as a kid. So at 4, I can go fetch water. Remember, we couldn't afford food, so we never bought food from the grocery. We had to grow the food to eat. So that meant I have to help mom as the oldest so we can have enough food to grow, to eat. That was my world. Never had a pair of shoes. Never had I had two pairs of clothes, one for Monday to Saturday and one for Sunday. Most of it didn't have even like your butt was hanging. That was my life as a kid. At the age of 4, I began to realize not only we're poor, but I had the most abusive father you could think of. So I had poverty on one side, but on the other side, I had a mean, abusive dad. And here's the hardest part, the guilt that I felt the most. The abuse that I saw go towards my mom. The same abuse I got, my mom got the same. But most of the abuse from my mom were more of she advocated for us to have a meal. If mom said, kids haven't eaten 4 days, would you provide a meal for them? She got the beatings for that. When clothes were in tatters and she said, it's shameful for how our kids look like. Would you get them something to wear? She got her beatings for that. So tell me as a kid, how do you dream when you know actually your needs puts your mom in danger? How do you dream? How do you voice your needs when you know if I tell mom and she goes to dad, she's going to be abused for that reason? How do you? And that's the majority of our foster kids too. That they got the beatings. And then they went to school. And then someone saw it. And then they were taken away. Guilt is my fault. My needs were my problem to my mom. So for me, I grew up wondering or wanting, I wish I didn't have to see tomorrow because today's abuse was going to repeat the next day. So for me was, I wish I didn't have to see tomorrow. I wish. I didn't know how to pray, but I knew one. God, I wish you could take my life, but I didn't have to see tomorrow. The abuse was intense in every way, shape, form you could imagine. So at the age of 10, I thought, look, my father's going to kill me anyway, but why should I give him the opportunity to do so if I can run away? So one night I woke up and I went to the bus station at 3 in the morning and I asked the lady, of all these buses, which one goes the farthest? I had never been 20 miles away from my village, so I didn't have the concept of how far I could go. But I asked, of all these, which one goes the farthest? And the lady said that one, and I got on that bus. And it wasn't like I was running to go in a better place. Here's what I was running away. I wanted to go as far as I can, that when I die, my father would never see my dead body or rejoice that I was dead. That was the only reason why. I'm going to run as far as I can. So I never give him a chance to be the one take my life or rejoice over my dead. But that was my whole concept as a 10-year-old. And I ran away and I went 500 kilometers away. What did I do when I got to Kampala? They spoke a different language. It was a different place. And I had one choice, and that one choice was to be a street kid. So I became a street kid on the streets of Kampala, the busiest, most mean, abusive place you could think of. Yes, the abuse was 100 times. It was 100 times than what I felt at home. But it was different. Here's why. My abusers were not related to me. So they could do whatever they wanted. Sometimes the kids we have who they look at you, you say, can you not do that? And they just kind of keep doing. Sometimes that's the feeling. I've had it over and over. What's more can do? You don't know me. You don't care for me. That's how I give up my life. You can abuse me any way you want because you don't care. You don't know me. And that became my life for 5 years. Where did I sleep? I slept in the sewer. Why the sewer? In Kampala, there's a sewer that takes all the garbage and all the trash and all human remains that goes through the city. And it smelled so bad that for us it was the safest place to be because most people didn't go. No human being would go to that place. But for us, it was the safest place to be. I was called a garbage boy. I was called the thief. I was called name anything. But that's what I looked like. That's how I smelled. So I believed everything they said because that was who I looked like, what I smelled. And that was my life for 5 years. As street kids, we learned how to steal and survive. We always stole food that we can roast, not cook, but can roast. And we knew how to get it because people used us for that. I did not understand kindness. Here's why kindness was the red flag. For everyone who was kind was abusive after. So everything that was nice, you knew there's a price to pay after. So for us, kindness meant red flag, run for your life. So we learned how to work. I'm going to help you run, do things for you, but I'm going to get food before you abuse me. And that was my life as a kid. So one day I saw a man who was buying food. As always, we knew what to do. I followed this man, and as soon as he bought his food, I wanted to carry it so I can steal a few from him. And before I could take it, he said, hey, put my food down. What's your name? What is your name? And that really rattled me. Here's why. For 5 years, no one human being had ever asked me what my name was. Nobody. Nobody. And I'll ask you the same question. How often do you see a homeless person before you give them food and say, what's your name? Have you ever stopped and said, hey, what's your name? I give you assignment. Go, if you ever meet one, say, what's your name? And you see their eyes look at you like, you want to know my name? I'm worthy being known? That's all he said. For me, that scared me that I took a few steps back because I knew he's going to harm me. I told him my name is Peter and just walked away because I was afraid he's going to harm me. Otherwise, he's being too nice. He's about to do something bad. He let me carry the food, and before I could steal something, he gave me something to eat. And he left. Next week he comes back. He asked one of the kids, he said, hey, where's Peter? He asked for me by my name. That got me scared, but I knew I can get food from him. The third week, he did the same. The fourth week, I kind of knew what he drives, what he parks his car, what time he shows up. Like you knew one day in life, you're not going to steal and someone knows your name. And his wife, for me, it wasn't so much about the name. It was the memories of my mother. Because my mom called me Peter, So someone else calling you by my name, it was the sound of my mom saying, where's Peter? And that's all I needed. Someone knew my name. That's all I needed to hear. And so he did that for 1 year and a half. 1 year and a half, he fed me, gave me food once a week. And he called me by my name. That's all that matters in life. That someone knew what my name was. And so he fed me for 1 year and a half. And all I looked forward to, it wasn't the food. You're garbage from Monday to Saturday, but you have 1 hour where you're human. And as street kids, we were treated more like stray animals. So sometimes people didn't give us the food because they were afraid of us. So they would throw away in the garbage. But we had to run there before the dogs go there as well to get the food. But this stranger, he knew me by my name. He didn't let me steal it. He just gave it to me. And for one time in a week, for an hour, I knew I was human. And so one day, he said, "Hey, Peter, if you had an opportunity to go to school, would you have to go to school?" And I looked at him, I said, "You're lame, you know? Why would I want to go to school? Look, you live in the garbage, in the sewer. That's where your life is. You live to just have a meal, and that's all you dream, you think for, a meal." And he says, "Would you like to go to school?" You kind of like, "Well, don't you know where I live? Like, why would I?" School, here's how I knew school is for people who have mom and dad, who have a home, who have to dream, who have something to live for. I didn't have any of that. Any of that. Why would I go to school? Why would I go to school? So I said no. So next time he comes back, like a month or two later, he said, "Hey, if you go to school, there'll be lunch, dinner, and breakfast." Literally, I looked at him and said, "What time do we go?" Because he spoke one thing I lived for, a meal. But also when he said 3 meals, I said, you think of heaven. People say, in heaven there's, streets with gold, To me as a street kid, that's what heaven meant. 2 meals a day? Can you? Is that possible? So to me, that was the idea of heaven. So I went to school, not because I wanted to be a teacher, not I wanted to be anything. I said, is there a place on the planet where you can have 3 meals? And remember, he fed me for 1.5 years. So he'd built that little trust. So I was like, okay, he's fed me for 1 year. Let me go check it out for one day. Let me go check it out. And sure enough, I went. And there was lunch. They said there'll be dinner. So I waited for dinner. It came. I had never slept on a mattress until when I was 16. So he bought a mattress. It was a boarding school. So for me, I didn't sleep on the mattress. I slept on the floor. And then there was dinner. There was breakfast. So here's what happened. So while the kids were in class, I would gather everything I wanted to steal from their bags. I just gather things. But then I'll be like, wait a minute, dinner is coming. So if I take this, Steve, I will lose my dinner. So I'll put them back. Because I'm waiting for another meal. When you've never had that meal, you're not sure if it's coming back. But you kind of, let me see if there'll be another one, You wait, it comes like, there's another one. As street kids, if you looked in my eyes and looked at me, that meant you want to beat me up, so I'm going to hit you before you do. So kids will come and look at me and say, you want to go play? I want to hit them right away. Then I realize, if I hit this kid, I'm going to miss my meal. So then I'll back off. So then now kept coming. I had never had a pair of shoes until when I was 16 years old. So he gave me a pair of shoes to go to boarding school. I didn't wear them because I had never had a pair of shoes and they were uncomfortable. So now I wore them because I wanted food. If I put on my shoes, I'll get that food. I didn't see the use of going to class. But now I began to go to class because if I go to class, I get that food. So I tried to do everything everyone was doing because I didn't want to miss on that flow of food. That's the only thing what I said at school. And so it became a pattern of food is going to stay. 3 or 4 months at school, he brought me to his home. So he took me to church and then he brought me to his home. So for the first time, I saw a family that was about to eat on the dining table. So that scared me because I had never ate in the presence of my dad. If we ate while he was in the home, that food came towards you or through the window. So I thought every father, that's how they do. Every dad, that's what they do to their family. So when I sat on Sunday for dining, I was like, look, this guy is about to beat the crap of his family, but I'm not going to. Where's the exit door? So I got my food and I sat at the exit door. I'm like, when he begins, I have my way out. But they didn't bother me. I ate and I waited for him to beat up his family. He didn't come. Next Sunday, he brings me back. So the third time was more like, okay, it's a show. Something is gonna. It's crazy when we don't trust and you wait. Literally, you wait for the bad. That you miss out the good because you're waiting for the bad to happen. That I waited. So they did something really cool. So the fourth, fifth time, they wrote my name on the chair at the dining table. And they put my name on it. Peter. And that really changed my life. Because I feel like I was worthy. Sitting on the table, you know. Because it has my name on it. And so I sat and that became my life. And then now I began to realize, like, wait a minute, I love this family. They're real because I saw it over and over. And now I was like, okay, I want to be like him. What do I do? So now the school became different because now I had a goal because I had seen what an example of a good family looks like and I want to be like him. So now school was, I really want to do well in school. But also his family used 12 words of affirmation to help me understand what that meant. They said things like, Peter, you're brave. You're special. You're chosen. You're not alone. Things I didn't understand. No one had ever said I'm special. How? You're brave. Me? How can I? And they would explain this way. If I lived on the street for one day, I would lose my life. To you to sleep on the street for almost 6 years, you're the bravest human being we've ever met. So I began to use what I saw as negative. They twisted it to be positive. And now I'm like, wait a minute. If they think I'm brave, I should get a C. Then I get a C. I should get a B. Then I got a B. I should get an A. And I got an A. And there's one thing they did that changed my life as well. So in Africa, when you sit in the car, mom and dad usually, because most people don't have cars, mom and dad sit in the front, their kids in the middle, and then everyone else in the back. So the wife wasn't there, and he said, Peter, you can sit in front. I'm like, oh, no, that's not my place to sit. But he looked at me and said, Peter, you're special. You belong in your family. You can sit there. And for the first time, to this day, I remember what he was wearing. Because I never felt that way all my life. That I was worthy to sit in the same seat as his wife. And for the first time, I felt like I belong. And so that's why I excelled in school. Because they gave me what to dream for, what to fight for. And so I finished high school, and then I went to university in Uganda. And I went to university in England. And that's how I came to the United States. Through the kindness of a family that did know me, that changed my life. Not only did they change me, but it changed my family as well. I'm the oldest of 5. My siblings have all gone through university. Not because they could do it, I think they were like, if Peter can do it, we can do it as well. He said a good example. But also I knew the best way I can help them is give them what I was given, education. And so I helped them do so. So for me, now you see why I'm the wealthiest human being on the planet. I didn't have a family. He gave me a family. I never dreamt. My dream was, I wish I didn't have to see tomorrow. That I get to dream. How do I come to this country and just not do something? Not do something for others. Not love on the bio families. I would hear people say on the streets of Kampala, what a mother will let their kids be on the streets, But no one knew what the abuse my mother had to endure. And sometimes it's easy to look at those moms and say, how dare them? But until we've walked in their shoes, until we've loved them on who they are, until we've extended love and despite of where they come from, rather than see them as villains, to see them as human beings. that God loves. It's not my job to judge them, but to love them despite of that. I was loved at my lowest. I just don't know how I can judge someone else that way. To be there. I didn't have, think about it, you've lived on the streets for 5 years. I mean, is there a bound? I could steal and I wouldn't even blink. I could harm you, I wouldn't even blink. But he loved me through all that. He cared for me. He saw the best in me. That our kids, sometimes we see them and say, they don't listen to me. They don't show gratitude. Really? Well, until you show them what that is, not sure they even know what that gratitude looks like. But they loved me anyway. And that's my joy for me to really, especially to the local church in the United States, to our believers. I shared with some of you, I work for Compassion International, and I also work for World Vision. For 11 years, I worked for Compassion. Now I work for World Vision. You know? We give them lots of money to help kids we've never met. But we will not look at the foster family in our church to say, how do we come alongside? Look, I wanted to give my 3 months into being a foster dad, I was like, this thing is really hard. I'm not going to do this. But boy, I went to my care group. I said, this thing is really hard. But before I could quit, I said, I'm going to forcefully create a village for myself. I'm going to look for single men in my church that have to take my kids for play video games. I'm going to look for single men and women who I can ask. When I get that child, I can say, I need a diaper, I need milk and juice, and you bring it to me because you can't say, my children. No, you're not married. Get me that. Pizza. My Thursdays are my hardest days. I need a pizza. Why? Because it's the day when my kids visit their families and most of them don't show up. So my kids are dealing with trauma of not seeing their mom, and I don't have to worry about food, so I just need a pizza on Thursday. My pastor, yes, I call, I say, I need a stroller because I just got a baby and I don't have one. Either you say no, but I'm going to tell you. And most of the time they respond. And that's who have helped me. That I would have given up a 3-month, but that village has helped me do the best I can to have 36 kids and still want more and do more because they held me when I could not. They've come alongside. And that's our church needs. That's what every foster parent needs. Someone to come alongside. I have men I talk to, when I approach them like, can we hang out? They're like, well, next month. I'm like, next month? I don't have next month. I might be in rehab or just killed a child. So no. And I said, look, you work, right? You have 1 hour of lunch, right? That's all I need. 45 minutes of that, we sit down. I'll come to your office. You don't even have to meet. I come to you. And that's all you need? Yes, sir. That's it. Don't ask me about my kids. Just ask me about me. And they realize that's all. A support of an adult you can talk to. But they had no clue that meant anything. And trying to give tangible ways to our local church to say, we can't all be foster parent, but we can all do something. There's one man I met who wanted to give up his job because he said, I've been successful, I do landscape. I'm going to sell it so I can do something. I'm like, no, not today. I said, look for 5 or 2 foster families and mow their yard once or every other month, every other week. We live in Charlotte. Grass grows when you're sleeping one night. You wake up, it's like right here. I say, that's all. So he comes to my home once a week to mow the yard. For the last 3 years, he's what changed his life. Because my teens, he cannot mow the yard without my teens be there. Because they like to sit on that thing and go on it. Do you know who they invite on their birthdays? That guy. But he had no idea that could change a life of my teens. And he cries. He'll sit down and say, I just had no idea. My day-to-day life job could be the one to help me. I say, yeah, mowing the yard. That's all. The 2 men in my youth group who are single. They work for the bank, but they play video games. I know they are in 30s. That's all they do because they're not married anyway. But they take my kids once a week to go play video games. But who mentors them? Who do they invite on their birthdays? Anything special? Those. Because they get to really see them at their best, but get to also intervene in their lives while playing video games. But sometimes we made it so, when we share about foster care, people think like we are going to bring the entire 400 kids in your account and say, hey, can you take care of them? No. It's the simple doing what you do every day, just coming alongside a foster child, a teen, bio parents, and foster moms and dads. That's all. People say, how do we stop foster care? I'm like, one way, intervening before the kids come into foster care. But how do we do that? Well, create space where that mom, when they're struggling, to know they can come with no judgment. And take care of their kids. This Christmas is coming and I'm so worried because of how many presents I have to buy for my other 30-something kids. Because now I'm more of an uncle than anything else. Today I have 2 kids in my home because mom and dad just needed a time away. And I can still be that safety net for them. Rather than judge them and say, why? No. Sure, I'll take you off. Last week, 2 were at Disney. And I was the first one they called to say, we're taking kids to Disney. Because an uncle on the other side that helped them so they can have their kids back. And they want me in their lives. And that family, when I took their kids, they were so worried that I was black and I was taking their 2 white kids. But how that really shifted for them to look at me and say, boy, we had it wrong, We were raised wrong, and you've shown us what that means. The people who said black people are wrong, no one took our kids. You did. You love our kids as yours. When we could not drive to come and meet the kids, you brought them to us because you wanted us to have our kids back. When everyone said we're going to lose our children, but you didn't. You didn't see it that way. When attitudes change, when we see humans as humans, we have no idea the difference we get to make in their lives. That man, when he took me in, there was 3,000 kids on the streets of Kampala. 3,000, think about. But he didn't say, oh gosh, what do I do? He said, hey, I cannot take them all, but I can take one. Just one. And that's what we ought to teach to our churches and our friends. You don't have to take the entire county, just one. But little did he know I would go this far. Little did he know. And here's what I asked him when he was driving. I said, why me? Why me? He said, I just want to be faithful. I didn't understand that. I just want to be faithful. It's later in life that he wanted to be faithful to God. And here's what happened. Because he was faithful, my entire family became believers. Why? Because for my mom's like, how can a stranger love my child as theirs? And that's why they became believers. How can someone show love, that much love to my child? Because they were faithful. That's how far I went to school. I'm the most educated human being you could think of. Been into 101 countries. Because he saw the best in me when I could not see it. There's one thing that could have ruined my life. Hatred towards my father. I hated my father in every shape form you could think of. I was 19, 20. I wanted to go back home and break my dad's legs. Like, seriously, that was my goal. Harm him. But my foster dad taught me that. He taught me the life of Joseph. He said, what did Joseph do when his brothers found him? I hated that story. But it really changed my life. When they found him, what did he say? For what you meant for evil, God used it for good to save life. I'm a foster dad, not because I have. Yes, I do. Living in the United States, I am privileged. But he taught me what a father ought to be. To love unconditionally, to not judge, to see the best in others, to not have expectations, but just to love because God loves and gave him so much. That's all. And that's all it took. And that's how he changed my life. And that's why I'm a foster dad. not because I have resource or I have extra. No, he taught me how to be a dad to kids from the most difficult place you could imagine. I'm not lying. There are more holes in my house than I can count. But they each have a painting on top of it. And the kids go buy painting. Whoever put that hole just have to go buy a good painting that fits right there. And to love on them. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, it's hard. But boy, I have come to learn that God loves me because that's who I am to him. I mess up, but he loves me over and over and over again. With no question, with no punishment. Without asking me favors. But to love, he loves me the same way I love my kids. I've never been, I don't know, people say, I was telling him like, you know, I thought I was a Christian until I became a foster dad. Then I was like, oh boy, I am so far from this thing. Patience, I thought I was the most patient, 0. Kindness, 0. Expecting, but boy, every day I am on my knees to know that he loves me that much that I can do the same to my kids and love them with no expectation. My kid was yelling at me. He called me every word you could think of on the planet. And then after I said, hey, do you want to go on, have your favorite ice cream? Like, yeah, yes. And while we're sitting like, I was like, Dad, I love you very much. And I'm just looking at him like, huh? How? But I couldn't say that. I was like, yeah, small win. Yes, good. And that's all I could take. The other day, my daughter, I don't know what she had drunk that day, but I felt like I was about to call DSS. And then I put her to bed and she says, Dad, I love you so much. That's all I needed to hear. But in my head, I was like, you could have told me that at lunch. But tonight is the best way, yeah. And I went to bed just so ready for tomorrow. That's all I needed to hear. That's all. That the glimpse of hope. That I didn't have to dwell on the glimpse of hope. And that's what all our foster parents need. Our foster kids, we foster parents, those who advocate for our kids. And also the church. Like as my goal, my if I could ask any job, is truly be able to share to churches on how we can all, with little things, do. I've created something. There's a little box here that I've created for my kids. Yes. So I memorized the 12 words they said because they were that important to me. So I wrote them on 3 pieces of paper. One on my steering wheel, because when we're driving, that's when I want to cuss, but I can't, But just to remind me, there are 12 words to say to my kids, you're special, you matter, you belong, you're chosen, you're gift, you are known, Memorize. One on my steering wheel, one on the dining table, because we spend more time in the dining and the kitchen. So I can always remember, tell my kids that. And then one in the closet, because when I want to give up, I go to the closet to cry and say, I am done. And then I look at those 12, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not. But also, we created those words on our words of bandana, and we put them on our dog. So our dog wears a bandana with those 12 words. You're brave, you're known, you're hard, you're seen, you're enough, you're special. There's nothing you need to do to earn my love. You're just enough who you are. Because they take my dogs, every time they are mad, they take their dogs to the bedroom. The dogs love them that much. So I want them to read these words. So then we created the duplicate of our dog right here, with 12 words of affirmation bandana. So we sell one, and then one goes to kids in the foster care. So he has 12 words, and they get the bandana together this way. Something about even your biological kids. How often do you tell them those words? How often do you sit and say, you matter to me? Crying isn't a bad thing. Crying is a way they speak. I want to hear you. What's the matter? Yelling or sometimes cursing, that's how my kids sometimes communicate to me. I want them to be known. I want them to be heard. Sometimes the language that I don't like to be called, But boy, it's the only way. When my teenager is yelling, I'm like, oh, he's talking. Oh dear, But to know that's the moment he's going to share with me, and I ought to remove myself from there and say, it's not about me. He's not attacking his dad. No. But he just want to be heard. That's all. Though he's saying it in a language that I don't appreciate, but boy, he's talking to me. And I ought to listen how he's feeling so I can be there for him. Even their parents, sometimes they are mad and I can hear the fumes coming through the other side. Any mother who would lose their children have a right to be angry. They have. It's not about me, but they lost their kids. They've lost control. For me, as a dad on the other side, to say, I hear you. I hear you. It's not about me. So on behalf of my kids and my family, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and share with you. As I said, I live in North Carolina, and pray for me that I would want to be a full-time advocate for kids. That's what I live for. That's what I want, to truly share the world and say, we all been given. And comfort isn't the American dream. The American dream is standing up for those who cannot speak for themselves and care for them and love on them no matter who we are. We know we all can't be false parents, but we have people who have so much money they don't know what to do with it. They should give it to you so you know what to use it for. We know people who love to make cookies. Well, how many cookies can you make for foster families in your village, in your town? Like, I really truly believe it takes a village to raise a child. It's not an African saying. It's really a factor of every community. Every community. My neighbor someone broke into their home. So they were telling me like, oh, be careful. I said, I think that was a foster child. And they're like, because they were so mad. So I said, I think that was a foster child. And they kind of like looked at me like, why? Someone didn't take care of this child. Someone didn't really be there for this kid. So they were looking for something they need. And they were mad at me. They just went back. But after they actually came back and they said, I was mad, but now I really get what you're trying to say. When that happens, somehow we didn't take care of that kid. Somehow we backed off and we made it, it's someone else's problem, But now that they are in a place where they are looking to survive, that's when you're like, why me? Well, we forgot. We didn't take care of this baby when they were 7-5. We let them age out. No one cared. What did they take? I asked, what did they take? Did they take your TV? No. What did they? They sent food and a few monies they could find. For the first time, my neighbors understood what that meant. When this happened, I ought to blame myself. I should have done something. I should have. We can sit in our pews and be happy and feel God loves us. But boy, if we don't care for it's funny, the Bible sometimes it says things where you're like, how can I not know? It doesn't say, hey, when you're comfortable and you feel really good about yourself, well, think about the poor. Like, that's what the Bible says. It says, I command you that you take care. Not when you feel like I am commanding you that you take care of the least of these. Not a simple way. No, do it. You want to leave legacy for having the most majority homes in, staff and shops? You know what this man told me? Every time I say, what matters? He said, Peter, if on my deathbed, or when you all guys come to bury me, if there's 5 kids that I helped, and they're able to say, he changed my life, is all the legacy I could ever ask for. Because that will live forever. The houses I own and how much car I've driven, that. My mom would say, every time we didn't want to share with our brother, he'd say, Peter, you have 3x6. I'm like, what does that mean? 3x6. This is what he's saying. When you die, it's 3x6. That's it. Like, there's nothing else you get. Your hall is 3x6, 3 that way, 3, 6, that's it. And he would say, that nice shirt you have, your brother needs it, so we can't even bury you in that nice shirt. And it really made sense later. That we can not go to bed, we can be angry, we can hold, we can not like people, because somehow they are wearing your favorite shirt. And to know that, man, the day I leave this world, I won't take any of that, really puts things in perspective. Legacy. Legacy is how many lives I get to change, how many lives I get to share, how many lives I get to stand for, how many lives that bother my life, but I get to stand in because of what God calls me to. That's it. So on behalf of my family and all kids in Foursquare, we want to say thank you for advocating for us and being there for us and always standing up. So thank you and thank you.
So that's it. All I can think of is you've heard this story a million times before. I'm going to tell it again. Kids walking by the seashore. Seashore's covered by starfish. Kid picks one up, throws it in. Guy comes up and goes, what difference are you going to make? There's thousands of starfish on the seashore. Picks one up, throws it in, and said, I made a difference in that one. Who knew? Like this one guy comes and speaks to this one man on the streets. And here he is, man, making a difference. So thank you guys for making a difference. Couple of housekeeping things, and we're going to get you guys out of here before 2. You've never been to a conference before, right?
I'm going to speak tonight to Iowa. That's why I'm traveling to. How many of you have little ones? Anyone has? I have 3 of these. So you can take them to your farm.
They won't fit on the airplane?
No.
Okay, there you go. All right. Peter. Okay. Yeah, can we get those on your website? Yep. Gotcha. Perfect. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it again. Couple of housekeeping things real quick. Bobby Gaines said that the random number generator chose Brianna Wright. Brianna, you still here? You won the T-shirt from Bobby. He's back there in the back. Or you want to email her? You said you'd email her, but she's still here. So thank you again to all of you guys that have come and shared your gifts, talents, and abilities with us. And thank you all for coming. If you're whatever stage you are in the foster care conversation, if you're here to learn how to help, I got a message on Messenger just yesterday. Hey, I can't be there tomorrow, but I want to help babysit. I was like, I'm going to give somebody your name and number. So like all 6 of you guys, like 15 of you can call them and let them know. So thank you guys so much for being here. I want to pray for Peter and us, and then we'll be gone. Vendors, a lot of you guys, I know you already had to tear down and get out of here. And then all of you that we were going to talk about distributing those medicine boxes, if you guys will meet me in the fellowship hall, we'll figure out how to get those. And then give me your contact information. I've reached out to Gila. Troop Association should have access to more, so I will divvy them up here and then try to get you guys some more. Cool? Nope, you can't take home extra barbecue plates. Our men's homeless shelter's coming to pick them up. Sorry. So sorry. If Jill promised you food, sorry, it's going to Hope House. I apologize. I reached out to their director and she said she could come get it. So, sorry. That's the key to a good marriage is communication. Sorry, babe. Oops. Anything else before we dismiss from the big group? All right, sweet. Father, thank you for the day. Thank you for the time. Thank you for all those that have made today special. We pray for Peter as he travels and carries this message. I pray for all these organizations that are here, man, that are making a difference on the front lines, in the trenches, changing the lives of kids. And then, Father, for the men, women that are here, the people that have said, I want to do something, Father, continue to open those doors. And then, Father, thank you for all these groups and agencies and people that are making a difference. Just help us, Father, to make a difference in the next one. Thank you for your love for us. Showing it to us in your son, Jesus. It's in his name that we pray. Amen. Thank y'all so much. Thanks again, Families for Families, Mission Georgia, and Graddick Communications. Y'all have a great weekend.